Welcome back to Gaming Top Down. This is David, continuing my series of videos on every game in my collection, breaking them down into categories. Today we're going over every game I have that starts with the letter L. So without any more ado, let's hop right in. Okay, I have a few unplayed games that start with the letter L, and the first couple are games based off one of my very favorite pieces of fiction ever, The Lord of the Rings. This is a game I got here very recently, so I haven't been able to play it yet. This is Lord of the Rings Adventure to Mount Doom. And in this game, it's either solo or cooperative. You're trying to basically get Frodo and the ring to Mount Doom, dealing with a lot of die rolls and enemies and cards here in the different kind of phases of the journey. I think there are 5 or 6 different phases. It says it takes 50 minutes to play through a session, so I think there is quite a bit you have to do in each leg of the journey. It's supposed to be fairly solid. I'm very picky with co-op games, but I kind of wanted to try this one solo a couple of times at least, or even play it with my kids who have started to get into Lord of the Rings as well. So I do have high hopes that this one might be a good time to kind of introduce my children to cooperative games, but we will see. That is Lord of the Rings Adventure to Mount Doom. The other one is way more overwhelming. This is Lord of the Rings, the card game, which has been around for a long time, but it did just get kind of this revised box edition. And this is a living card game from Fantasy Flight. And basically you build a deck of cards that will have heroes and allies and other types of cards. And then you have to survive and fight your way through various scenarios. And it's pretty intense as far as like rules overhead. There's, lots of resources, and I don't even remember what this is called, like the fear, I don't think fear is the right word, threat tracker or something. And you might have to tap your cards. So kind of hardcore in the card game scene, but again, I love the theme and it's supposed to be excellent. So I think the theme can pull me through learning the rule set here. I have heard it's best at 2 though, which presents a little bit of a problem in that I need to either play 2 hands myself, which doesn't sound especially thrilling, but maybe it would be, or find somebody else that wants to learn kind of a complex card game. So we'll see. I am excited to try it, just mostly based on the theme and that it's supposed to be a fun card game system. So that is Lord of the Rings, the card game. All right, next up is another game in the Legends of D6 series. This is Lockpicks. And yeah, just another one I haven't had a chance to try yet. It looks like you have to try and solve a series of lockpick puzzles in order to open different chests. I'm guessing the better you do so with your certain amount of turns, then you get more points. So it's kind of a score chaser in that way, where you try to beat your own high score from play to play. But I am excited to try this one. I do like a good kind of puzzle like that. So that is Lockpicks from the Legends of D6 print and play game series. And last up in games I haven't gotten to the table yet is one that I'm desperately trying to play soon. This is Libertalia Winds of Galecrest by Stonemaier Games. And I really like games by Paolo Mori. I think Blitzkrieg is one of my favorite 2-player games, and I feel like he has some good kind of tension and some good design chops. So, and I know this is kind of a halfway remake of one of his earlier games, and it's supposed to be just kind of like craziness in a pirate game where you all start with the same hand of cards, but then based on the cards that you have played, an opponent might play that card many rounds in the future, so you're trying to remember who has played what when. And the cards can be very mean, like destroy the next card or kind of skip their ability, and then I think you come backwards through the cards as well in order to score. So it's all about being the one that gets the most of the good stuff, the treasure, being a mean pirate, and whoever has the most treasure in their treasure chest at the end wins. So I think it can play a pretty big group as well. Yeah, 1 to 6 players. I hope that the meanness here isn't too high, because that can turn me off from a game pretty quickly. But this one had a lot of buzz, and it was on sale one day, so I decided to give it a shot, and somehow even ended up with one of the first printing copies. So I am excited to try this one, but haven't been able to quite yet. That is Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest. Okay, next up are a couple of games I've been thinking about purging from my collection, but I think I need to give them both another shot and to fully know. First is a little card game from Reiner Knizia. It's called Longboard, and it's a pretty fun card game. You're trying to make different surfboards of different colors, and the numbers on the card have to ascend, and you want stickers on the cards because that will be multiplied by how long the board is, if I remember correctly, to score you points. You're also trying to get a variety of boards past some, I think, 4 card length. And the way that you can take new cards is kind of the limiting factor here. There's the central market, and you're restricted in that you can't just take whatever you want. You have to, I can't remember every rule, but you have to either take one and give one to an opponent, or take one of theirs. So it's a little tricky in how you get what you want. I thought it was fairly fun, but it did drag a little past the 20 to 30 minutes that it says here. So hopefully we can get that playtime down just a little bit and try to really hone in on the decision space and see if it has legs for me. But that is Longboard, a very pretty little card game by Reiner Knizia. And then last up in my Purge category, again, a game I like and I think I could keep, just unsure at the moment. And it's mainly because I'm very picky and struggle with cooperative games. This is The Loop, which I think is probably one of my favorite cooperative games I've ever played. I really like it. It has this kind of a similar feeling to games like Pandemic and things like that, where you are running around trying to put out fires before you lose. And you do that by kind of moving these tokens back and forth. This evil doctor has broken through the space-time continuum, and he's moving back in time through these different kind of eras of time. And so you have to move back and to kind of get rid of some of his clones. And the cool part about this game is there's a little bit of randomness in how he hurts you and affects the board. I think these are called threat tokens, maybe. That's probably not the right term, but these tokens get dropped in this tower and will come out one of 3 lanes, depending on which way he is facing. So you kind of know where you might be in trouble, but not fully. And if you get too many of those kind of breaks in the space-time in that era, it can destroy kind of that era of time. And if you lose too many of those, you lose the game. So it is fun. You're running around destroying those clones. You work together. You're talking about what's a good play. Each player has their own character with a slight kind of asymmetric ability, and you also have your own deck of cards. This is kind of a deck builder in a way, where you're getting new cards into your hand as well that will hopefully help you to get stronger throughout kind of your play against Dr. Foe. And there are, I think, 4 different game modes or scenarios that you can play through. So I feel like there's quite a bit of game in here. This game also has a couple of expansions, I think. I don't have them, but I like it. Just need to really decide where it sits for me as far as a cooperative game goes, because I generally like cooperative games that are either very complex, Spirit Island, when somebody that really wants to dig in there with me, or that are very simple and short, like Illiterati a couple of videos ago, which is a pretty simple word game where you're just helping each other kind of make words. So I don't know. It sits in a nice middle ground. I just need to decide on this one, but it is a really solid game. That is The Loop. All right, and then for my favorite games that start with the letter L, I've got a few of those. First is one I've had for a long time. This is Lost Cities, the card game by Reiner Knizia, and it's a great card game. Really, it has like a light theme about going on these expeditions, but it's basically just a game with cards, with numbers on the cards, and that are in different suits or colors. And you have to decide which of those colors or those suits you're going to focus on, because if you start an expedition, or in other words, play a single card down in one of those columns, then you start that expedition with negative 20 points. So you really need to be able to make sure that you're going to be successful in that suit to even start trying for it. And you and your opponent both play cards on opposite sides of the board, so you can see what they're focusing on as well. And you can take cards from either the top of the deck or from the central area. And you have to play your cards in, I think, ascending order. It's a really, really great kind of number-based card game. I can't say enough good about it. It's very solid. Small little box. And yeah, if you play a lot with the same person, I think you'll really love this one at 2 players. That is Lost Cities. Next up is a game that's kind of replaced Camel Up for me. This is Long Shot, the dice game. Much smaller box than Camel Up, and I think there's just a few more fun decisions. It's maybe even a little more zany and crazy than Camel Up, because you can really affect the race in crazy ways, push horses extra spots forward or backwards, but you're bidding on this horse race as the horses go around this track. On every turn, you'll roll a die that determines which horse moves and how many spaces. And then based on that horse's card, some other horses might move 1 space. And you can affect those. You can buy jerseys and helmets for a given horse that let you do special things based on that horse. You can even buy that horse. And then if that horse wins the race, I think you win $35, which is a big amount in this game. So you need to decide which horse you really want to buy and focus on. It's just a really, really fun time. The concession stand is maybe the area for the most kind of meanness and craziness in the game. Whenever you cross off a row or a column at the concession stand, you get to do something crazy, like either just get $7 extra to use for bets, or get a horse for free, or move a horse forward 3 spots, or 2 horses backwards 2 spots. You could, if you wanted to, play with those pre-crossed out so that nobody could affect the race that much. But everyone that I've played with this has not seen that as a negative. It's just kind of crazy fun for half an hour where people are moving your horse and you move it back, and you're mad at them for half a second, but you're just laughing and hoping that your horse gets rolled on the next turn. It's a really fun game. A cool little box, a good package. There's a bit of, or quite a bit of game in here, and I think you'll have a different experience each time you play it based on the group that you play it with. So that is Long Shot, the dice game. Okay, next up is a big one, very popular game, Lost Ruins of Arnak. This is kind of Indiana Jones the game, is what at least the cover reminds me of. In practice, you are doing a few different things, but basically you're placing your explorer workers out on the board to do different things. You can move up on different tracks, you can explore new sites and defeat the guardians that are protecting those sites. It has light deck building where you're getting new cards into your hand as well, and those cards will affect where you can go and what you can do. You have to pay more resources to explore further out. This is a very, very, very popular game. A little bit, it's not overly complex, but I would say it sits pretty comfortably in the medium complexity level. 30 minutes per player, I think, is about right too. If you play with 4, you're going to be at about 2 hours, I think. I do have the Expedition Leaders expansion in here as well, which I haven't played with yet, but I'm very excited to, because it makes every player board just slightly different. so I'm playing a leader that is different than my opponents. And that is, I think, added some variability and excitement to the game for a lot of players. I really like this one. I haven't played it as many times as I would like to, so I need to get it back to the table soon. But that is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Okay, and I think probably my favorite game in my collection that starts with the letter L is Lowlands. This is kind of a dry, pretty complex Euro game, but I think it's so fun. You are sending your workers out to different spots on your board to build your sheep farm, and you're doing that kind of in isolation from the other players. But there is this central board where there's quite a bit of interaction with the market and with the ocean that is coming up against the shore here. And so different amounts of water will come up depending on what cards are flipped. And so you and the people you're playing with have to work together to build this dike up to keep the water at bay, or else it will drown and kill some of your sheep. But there are 3 rounds in the game, and at the end of every round, depending on what happened, if the dike held or if it didn't, then the market condition in the game changes. And so it'll make your sheep way less or more valuable at the end of the game, or it will make your contribution to the dike more or less valuable. So that shifting market is very interesting as well. Have to be okay, with a kind of a dry looking Euro game, Agricola, something like that. This, I think, is kind of in that wheelhouse, but I think there's just enough player interaction as well where you have to work together a little bit, and you can ask somebody to help when you're building a part of the dike. You can say, hey, will you help me out? And they can donate a card for some points as well. So there's kind of some fun mixture of, I'm working on my own thing with my farm here, but I need to make sure that I'm also helping with the dike so I don't fall behind and I can get these cool bonuses from doing so. I need to make sure that I'm involved in determining what the market does by how much of the dike we do end up building. Lowlands is really great. A little complicated, and I think your first play of it, you'll just kind of be figuring it out and how all of the mechanisms come together, but I do think they come together very, very well. All right, well, that is going to do it for this video on the games in my collection that start with the letter L. Which of these games have you played, and what is your favorite game that starts with the letter L? Make sure to let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified when the rest of these videos drop. Also join our July 2024 giveaway at the link in the description of this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.